All right, in this demo, I'll teach you how to make handles using 3 different methods. First method we're going to look at is making a handle out of a coil of clay. So I've got my clay, and you can roll a coil on a table, or you can roll it in your hands. That's up to you. Right now I've got way more than enough clay to make 1 handle, or even 2 handles. So I'm going to start off making a 1-fingered handle for a smaller mug. I'm going to determine how much clay I need. I like to keep my clay moist so that when the cracks do start appearing, I can fix those quickly, or to prevent cracks from starting. So I'm just taking that coil of clay and I'm just pinching it, adjusting where that clay goes. For my handles, I generally like to have the attachment points thicker than the handle itself, where your finger is going to hold on to. And handles can be highly personalized. If you want, you can make a handle that only works for your fingers and how you hold on to things. So I'll end up, before I attach this to the mug, I'll end up cutting off a little bit of this excess clay. Right here, and also on this side. So I don't need quite that much. When you're making handles, you really need to pay attention to the size. If I leave this handle this size, after it's done drying and going through the firing process, my finger will no longer fit through it. So you want to make it big enough for your thumb to go through. When you're attaching your handle to your pot when it's leather hard, make sure your thumb fits through that handle, because when it shrinks, after it is done shrinking, your pointer finger will only fit through. So I've got 1 basic pinch handle, coil handle made. I like to set my handles aside in the position that they'll be attached so that they dry out when they get to the leather hard state. They'll hold that position, they'll remember that position. This handle, it'll just be a 3 or 4 finger handle. Also the coil handle. Coil handles are easy to make, easy and quick. They can be fun and spontaneous. This handle I'm going to pinch out maybe a little bit flatter. Depending on how you make your handle might also be determined by what your pot looks like that you're putting this handle on. If you've got a pinch pot, pinch handle looks really well with that style. It has that same type of aesthetic. Pinch pot and pinch handle. They match each other really nicely. Alright, so this handle, it's ready to be set aside. So now I've got this handle that flat and wide. Should be good for 4 fingers. If you add another finger to that for the drying amount, that should be enough for shrinkage. So you'd make it fit 5 fingers to work for a 4-finger mug, 4-finger handle. And again, I'll set this aside and allow it to dry out to leather hard. The next type of handle we're going to work on, or I'm going to give a demonstration on, is a slab handle. Now slab handles can be done really nicely, but they can also be really ugly if they're not done real nicely. Having just a straight cut off slab of clay, you're going to have sharp edges, and they often don't look real nice at a side view. They don't have any volume to them. It's too uniform. And having handles that are thicker in areas than in others can look really nice. So this slab of clay, it's about 1/4 of an inch right now. I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit, thin it out. All right, so now it's thinned out quite a bit. I'm going to think about how I want to do this. I'm going to get rid of this other edge here, and maybe I'll bring it in too. So I have this clump of clay that I can roll in on itself. And then I can start manipulating this. Before I get that far though, I'm going to quickly score these. Add a little bit of water. This clay's already pretty soft. I'm using a scoring tool that I made myself with a pack of needles and some epoxy. Just going to smear that seam over. And depending on how I was to attach this, if this was being attached to a really large mug or a pitcher, I'd just leave these ends open. So if it was being attached to this bucket here, and leave that end open, and it would be a nice attachment like that, or like that. So that'd make a pretty large handle. What I'm also going to do, because I don't want that texture of the canvas on there any longer, I'm gonna smooth it out. Because this is a hollow handle, when you attach it to your piece of artwork, you need to make sure that after you've got it attached, that you put an air release hole into that area, because without that, this handle will just blow up. And after it's gotten leather hard, I would adjust it some more, take care of some more of those imperfections. Alright, for the final handle that we'll demonstrate is a pulled handle. When you're going to pull a handle, you want some clay that's a decent size, because you're going to be holding onto this, and then you'll be pulling the handle from this amount here. You won't be pulling the handle from up here. So you'll need a bucket of water. So get your hands wet, get part of the clay wet. You want this hand to remain somewhat dry so that you've got a grip on this piece of slippery clay, or this clay that can become slippery. So I'm just pulling downward, reapplying water. I'm just giving it a light squeeze. When I get towards the bottom, I let off pressure just a little bit so that I don't thin it out too much towards the bottom. I'm using different pressure points to adjust how this handle's going to look. So I was using my thumb quite a bit there for a moment on that side. So now I've got this handle that I like. I'm going to cut off from the top here above where I will eventually attach it. So I've got that cut, and I'm also going to cut off the excess on the bottom. So I have this little handle. It'll be great for one finger. And I'll end up cutting off a decent amount on the front and the back, but that will be determined by the size of the mug. There's a little pulled handle. Pull another one, maybe a little bit larger this time. With one chunk of clay, you can pull several handles, and you may want to pull more than one. I'll usually pull around 3 handles per mug and choose just one of those. And as I'm doing this, I'll spin it every once in a while to get a change because I've got different pressure points on the inside of my hand and on the outside of that, between my thumb and fingers. I may even also put between my fingers to get a slightly different aesthetic. This is a pretty nice large handle. This could be a nice 3 or 4 finger handle. So again, I'll cut it off above where I think it needs to start. Now, form that handle. Yeah, this will end up being a nice 3-fingered handle. Cut off that little bit of excess on the bottom so that when I set it there to dry, it's going to sit flat. So there's 3 different methods of forming handles.